years and they keep going.
Well, the other important thing is she went to New York and she got the bill passed there because she moved out of Connecticut, and she's still, you know, concerned trying to build on what she laid the groundwork for here. So that's good too.
But we got the 2015 bill passed here.
Right.
Yeah.
There's an element that didn't get passed, and that's what we're coming back with.
She wants universal screening, but the bill in front of public health is just on the education piece, right?
That was the part that we couldn't get done the last time. We had to carve that out because of costs.
Yeah.
And got the main part of the bill done, and figured we'd come back to this at some point in time later, which we're doing now, which is good.
I'll check with Best Buy too to see what we actually do in the child care centers. I think that's a good place to get something up there for educational purposes. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean.
No problem. I'm just checking to make sure somebody from Judicial Review hasn't shown up yet.
Excuse me, Representative Ryan, David Gay once again. I understand our full team is here, so if you wish to dispose of the State Contracting Standards Board, we may be ready to go. I believe Greg and Jonathan Longman are both ready to present. I understand Chairman Fox had a medical emergency and couldn't attend as he had planned. His planned statement had been mostly to say thank you to the work group and to the Appropriations Committee for all the support we have given the board. I think it's beginning to bear fruit, but I think both Greg Daniels and Jonathan Longman are ready to begin.
Okay, did anybody from the Judicial Review Council show up yet? Okay,
No, they have not.
Okay, why don't we at least start with, and maybe they can, when the Judicial Review Council gets here, we can take him when they come on. Okay, Mr. Gay, if you'd like to start, you've gone through all the pleasantries. If you want to go from there, do we have questions concerning anything of the State Contracting Standards Board?
Well, if I may, I believe you have both Jonathan Longman and Greg Daniels. They may want to have an opening statement. I was just stepping in very quickly.
Okay.
And before we get started, I just want everyone to know that I have enabled screen sharing. So, Greg, if you want to put the document up to go through it, feel free to do so.
Hold on one sec. I'm having some technical difficulties here.
Would you like me to do it, Greg?
Yeah, if you could, that would help tremendously.
All right. Mr. Chair, give me a moment.
Okay.
Okay, can everyone see?
Yes, I can.
First, I'd like to thank the subcommittee for meeting with us again and to go over some of our budgetary needs and all of your hard work in getting us the staff that we currently have as of this last month. We've responded to many of all of the questions listed on the Representative Nuccio's request for information, and what we really particularly like to highlight is the ask related, well, a couple of asks, but one related to an admin, and I will turn over the conversation to Jonathan Longman, who will talk about the education component and what we're trying to do to build that area and what we might need in terms of funding.
Greg, how far down the document would you like me to advance?
Let's see. For now, I think you're perfect. So that 2A really speaks to what I was talking about in terms of needing a head count. Now that we have most of our staff, well, all of our current staff in place, we're finding that we're being pulled in many directions. And as you may know, it is very hard to administer our duties, our statutory duties under these circumstances. And we would like to extend our ask to getting a admin under that would help to act as a hub for all of our staff and to assist with everything from minutes to scheduling to posting information to the web. We've had some challenges in the last several weeks. We've been able to get things done, but we're finding very quickly that there's a lot on our plate, and and in the past, David Gay was one person, and it was difficult for him to manage. But now that we have a full staff of about 6 people, there's a lot to manage, and we need someone who can act as that hub to help keep us on the straight and narrow here.
Do you have any numbers to go with the cost of that individual?
So I did submit, and I'm not sure if you didn't get that, but yes, we have numbers. I submitted it through the portal and for testimony, so I'm not sure if you've received that, but we do have numbers. We were looking at an administrative assistant 1, which currently the salary for that position, it's a CL, the plan is CL grade 22, step 1. So the lowest class, but it's roughly $68,673. And then effective 7/1 with, I guess, adjustments for the pay scale, it will go up by, I believe, 2.5% to $70,348. So and that's essentially our ask with respect to personnel. Jonathan Longman will talk a little bit about our training efforts and how we think we can benefit from extending some funds for training.
This is John. I could share my.
For the rest of us.
I'm sorry, I could share my screen that would have the information, sir, if you wanted to see it, and that might be more helpful. So just give me 1 second. I'm typically a Teams user, so I'm going to have to figure out Zoom here. But let me share screen. Hopefully, everybody can see this. It's just kind of this is the outline of what we submitted as part of Chairman Fox's testimony. And just scrolling, it was a 1-page, and in the central part of the sheet, we tried to summarize our asks here. So I'll just go through it quickly. Sorry, just going to skip a little bit here, but the governor's proposed budget was $663,000 on 267, and then to add the additional employee, which is summarized in our chart right here, which is the administrative assistant, that would be $70,000 starting on 7/1/2023. And additionally, I don't know if you wanted to add anything else, Greg, on the assistant position, but if you wanted to, I could kind of go into the training piece now and how we came up with that money. But I know there might be questions out there, so I want to pause and see if anybody has anything for us.
Can you share this document that you're sharing?
Yes, I can, ma'am. I believe this was something that we had sent over beforehand, but I can resend it right now.
Isn't this his testimony that was submitted?
Yes, it
So
is.
it should be on Tammy, it should be
Oh,
on,
it's in testimony.
it's in testimony. Thank you.
It was sent out the morning of their agency presentation, but I can
Okay.
certainly send it right now to the subcommittee members. I'll pull it up and send it.
Yeah, I have his testimony. It doesn't seem to reflect this unless it's testimony that came in later. I'm not
This
sure.
was submitted, I believe we submitted this document here along with Rep. Nuccios, so we attached that as well. This was submitted on Friday afternoon.
Oh, Friday, okay. So if that could all get forwarded to the other subcommittee members, that'd be great.
It's all one document, isn't it, Greg?
Yes,
Okay.
Well, no, I'm looking at mine. What was sent back from mine? This is not on mine.
yeah, we replied to the email with Susan sending the response to your request for information, and then the entire committee, the testimony, we just packaged everything so that everyone would have a copy.
Well, but what I'm saying is the PDF, like the SCSB reply to Rep. Nuccio, that just has my questions on it. It doesn't have this exact.
Oh, I see. Yep, we'll get that right over.
Thank you.
Could I ask a very simple question? And I apologize for my ignorance, but where does the contracting state standards board, where do you meet? Do you have a central location?
So ma'am, we have an office at on the Capitol Ave building, and we have a group that sits here. Now that we have state employees, there's 6 state employees, and we're in suite 1060. But then obviously our board is also made up of the volunteers that are the board members themselves. So what we do for them is we have ad hocs. Last month, we actually had an in-person meeting that we held downstairs here in one of the conference rooms. Next month will actually be held online. And then I think the following month, again, we'll have an in-person. So it just depends what month it is. We like a hybrid approach because it allows members of the press and other folks that actually can't travel to Hartford that day to attend the meeting to call in remotely. So we try to have that option out there because we do like getting the feedback from everybody else that can attend as well. And it just helps with transparency, and it helps us communicate our message a little bit better.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you have any other questions from committee members? Is there anything else you want to add, Mr. Longman?
No, I mean, I could walk quickly through the budget. You'll see that, the governor's budget is 663,000 and then 666,000. That's down, from our current allotment of 678,000 this year. These changes we understand them. Unfortunately, at the end of June, we lose Mr. David Gay, our former executive director, who's really been instrumental in helping us get to where we are now. We'll lose those because he's a temporary worker retiree, and we understand those adjustments. So the adjustments in the documents that we're submitting to you are just to show how we've gotten from the governor's proposed budget of 663,000. We've added the additional monies for what it would cost us to hire that administrative assistant. And then I would like to walk everybody through which is the 4th column here on my screen, which I'm showing $60,000 request, and that money is slotted for a training and development certification program. So section 4E5 of chapter 62 really requires the State Contracting Standards Board to develop a standardized state procurement and project management education and training program for all employees of state contracting agencies charged with procurement responsibilities. As you can imagine, this is a pretty sizable effort, and we've done a great job with the thanks to this committee to bring in Carmen, who's been doing a fantastic job developing a plan and helping us try to understand the size and scope of this. But, I'll admit right now, this is no small thing. It's going to take us months to do, and we really need to get it right. We've spent a lot of hours building a detailed plan, outlining actions and benchmarking other states. And, now comes the hard part really, which is collecting the data and using that data to try to determine what areas of training are required across the state, and then building that course content and then delivering it which could be upwards of 500 people across the state, right? So while I can't say great enough things about Carmen, she's a fantastic trainer and a professional who's done this in the past. But to get this project off the ground, we really need some funds to make it possible. And what we're asking for is $60,000 here. And the way that we've come up with that is we're asking for $30,000 for our learning management system. And that would be our delivery method through a hybrid approach to getting this information and content out to the individuals that need the training. We would need about $20,000 to help us create that course content. And that money would help us pay for making videos, drawing on some industry association experience, and then building that content for areas of concern that we can't readily get from, say, standardized stuff that's out there for everybody else to use. And finally, we asked for $10,000 to kind of help facilitate that. And what I mean by that is printing materials, developing work aids that we would hand out to people that attend the classes, making certificates, and putting all those things into place. So overall, we're asking for $60,000. We want to do it correctly, and we recognize that this all won't happen at once, right? But if we had this money, it would really help us get this program going. And I know that this board, this subcommittee has done a fantastic job and added 5 positions last year. And we recognize that, it's always difficult to get more resources in a fiscally constrained environment. But we want to let you know that we plan to roll these things out in waves, and meaning like foundational, intermediate, and then advanced releases that would be staggered. But our goal is to try to get people trained at least to, a foundational requirement by 2025. And as a taxpayer, I recognize that, at any time that a group comes and asks for, an increase of like 20% more budget, I just want you to know that, all this money, including that position that's going to be supporting this, the administrative position, it's all going to be spent on professional development for the employees of this state. I think it's some of the best money that we can spend. And overall, asking for $120,000, I don't think is that much. And I understand the position that you're all in, and we understand that. But I want you to know that we've started this group about 3 months ago now. And I shouldn't say that because David had been here for so long before that. But, with the new staff on board and the mission that we have in front of us, we just wanted to be honest. We felt that there was a little bit of inefficiency having the chief procurement officer and the executive director typing up meeting notes and meeting minutes and picking up phone calls and arranging, for different trainings and other things that we think could, we can push off to someone else, an administrative assistant who could handle that as a centralized hub. But then it would allow us to really focus on the issues that we need to get to. The chief procurement officer and the executive director really need to focus on the auditing, the legal, the privatization, and all the other functions that are defined in Chapter 62, and allow us to actually concentrate on those efforts to actually make progress there. So what we're just trying to do is, move some of this work off of those plates and shift it somewhere else. And, the rest of the money is going to go to what we hope to be a best-in-class certification program for all the contracting folks across the state. So thank you for allowing me the time to talk through it.
Okay. Do we have any questions from subcommittee members?
I just would like to comment, Jonathan, thank you for that explanation. You had a little piece covering it up. So these training programs would go to all contracting, procurement and contracting officers. I'm just trying to understand who's going to get all the training and the certification in it. Excuse me for saying, I know we're looking at the fiscal impact, but to me, working with education, that does not look like a great ask to me. And just,
Yes, ma'am. As of this time, our thought is to actually go into the core or the STARS system, and those systems, they talk through the ERP system, and we would actually be able to define what people are involved in procurement, and then with that, we would understand what people are actually involved with, the different levels of responsibilities within procurement. And I talked a little bit before about how we would have different levels, and the thought now would be to align those levels based on responsibility. So yes, it would apply to all state agencies. The goal is obviously to roll this out in a little bit of waves, but for now, we want to build some kind of foundational knowledge across the board. And you're right, a lot of this, we're not asking for a lot of money because I think we can leverage a lot of information that's publicly available out there through the trade associations. What we would need to do is develop content that's specific, the delta there, the specific content that would be required to train people to how we conduct business here in Connecticut based on our rules, regulations, and requirements and the systems that we do it through. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, it does. And not to give you more or add any more, but I would be, later, it would be interesting to see if you could get a little survey back from some, maybe a little pilot to see how the training and the piece did and whether they found it, just to look at how it performed. I think that would be valuable.
That's great feedback. Thank you very much. I think Carmen had the same idea. We would start it in a pilot. We would start it hopefully at the end of this year and roll that out to a small group. And then, if necessary, we could adjust. And that way we can adjust to, anything that might be a mistake or an irregularity within the content itself. And it would also help us adapt to tailoring the content to what's really needed. We had some meetings with our DAS counterparts this morning, and they're kind of helping us guide where they think that there might be strengths and weaknesses right now in their own training program. And what we said was we really want to work together and we want to make this kind of robust. So between what they're doing internally and what we're trying to do across the state would really, build on each other. And that's really the goal for all of us.
Thank you for that extra explanation.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question. Thank you very much. So the $60,000 that you have in here, it says that cover the cost of learning management system, which was $30,000, development of course content $20,000, and logistical support for delivery $10,000. Why do the numbers stay the same both years? Once we have an established system and course content, why do we continue with the $60,000 number?
I actually, when I was building my way through this, I thought that question would come up because I said before that we have to kind of release this in waves. So the learning management system and the license that we're going to need for that, I think stays consistent over the 2 years. Now, with that said, we had some discussions with DAS this morning, and there might be some abilities in the future to leverage off of each other and then go with a single LMS, and maybe those costs go down in the future. But we think over the next 2 years, it's going to stay pretty consistent. But then I had mentioned before that we're going to roll this out in waves. So I think the first content that we build would be we'll call it the baseline content. And then we would build more advanced content after that. And that would be why, first year we would need to spend $20,000 developing the foundational content. And then the next years we would build the intermediate and advanced content. We also have a requirement to build project management training as well. Right now, the contracts board is focusing on procurement training. We feel like that has the most risk. But we also have, we're charged under Chapter 62 to also roll out project management training to the entire state of Connecticut employees that are involved in that as well. So, I mean, I don't think, unfortunately, we'll be able to get everything done in 2 years, but just know if we are able to get everything done in the first year, the thought is we would use those funds then to apply it to some project management training that would be rolled out.
So I guess my only other concern then is how closely you plan on working with DAS, because isn't the point of this, you look at the issues that we had with the school construction and the Port Authority and all of that. And be honest, I wasn't impressed with DAS's audit of an audit, which just looked at how we paid invoices. So I would expect you guys to be doing a much more deeper delve than what DAS is doing.
So at least in our discussions this morning, ma'am, DAS would concentrate on DAS specific training. So if they had their own internal processes and controls or procedures that are in place that needed to be for the functions that they do inside DAS, that would be the content that they would deliver. We would be delivering an overall strategic knowledge base of procurement itself and how it works and the rules and regulations that are in place to raise awareness and make sure people have at least the knowledge base to start asking the right questions and making better decisions going forward. We recognize that we can't influence what DAS does for training, but we know that the State Contracting Standards Board is there to really deliver some training to all people, because frankly, DAS doesn't do all the procurement in this state. It's decentralized, right? And then that means it flows to all the other agencies have portions of procurement. So right now, I think of DAS as being a little more robust, and I'm saying that cautiously, but also understanding that they are the centralized group. So they're all sitting together. They're all able to, see all of these practices and procedures that have been put in place over all these years. But the decentralized people are the people that we're really trying to get in touch with, right? The folks that are not sitting in 450, that might be working in a small agency somewhere else. What we really need to do is try to help get to those people and give them the training that they need, so at least they're making better informed decisions going forward. So I agree with you. I think that there's a lot of great steps that could be put in place and a lot of training that can go out to people, and there's improvements across the board. And that's really the goal of the State Contracting Standards Board, is to find the gaps that are in our procurement processes and procedures, and then build the guardrails in place to hopefully not allow mistakes or whatever you might want to call it to happen, and then hopefully improving over time. That's our goal. We're not an enforcement agency, meaning that we're not doing criminal investigations, but we are here to make sure the state is applying best practices and procedures to the procurements that they're doing. And when they do make a mistake, they're doing something to go back and correct those issues to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Since we did let the State Contracting Standards Board, Sue, are either one of the other groups there, just to make sure we don't have them wait too long? Not getting an answer. Okay. Okay, are there any other questions for the State Contracting Standards Board? Didn't want to move on unless we had to. If not, gentlemen, we thank you. Again, we know where you are. If we have any other questions, we certainly appreciate this presentation. I'm sorry. And we'll certainly take into consideration the additional funding you would like. And again, your explanations for why you think it's required is pretty comprehensive. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sue, are any of the Judicial Review or the Judicial Selection Council here?
No, I don't believe so, but the Office of State Ethics is.
I saw them, but I didn't want to skip to them without at least, these judicial people aren't very judicious in showing up on time. Okay, so if we're ready, are we ready to go to the Office of State Ethics? I guess we are.
All
Good
right.
afternoon, sir. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, Representative Ryan, and distinguished members of the Appropriations Subcommittee. My name is Peter Lewandowski. I'm the Executive Director of the Office of State Ethics, and with me is Shauna Kang, our Associate Fiscal Administrative Officer, who has worked with me on the submission of our agency's budget for fiscal years 24-25. Again, thank you for this opportunity to discuss our agency's budget. I can answer any questions you may have. I just want to highlight a couple things. I think the principal points actually for this particular budget is that would like to reclassify one of our vacant positions from the office assistant to a staff attorney position. And obviously, by doing so, we need additional funding to fund that staff attorney position. And the other is our operating expenses. I think we are also asking for additional funding for software license renewals under our operating expenses, which are very fluid in terms of they're impacted considerably by lobbyist registration fees, the fees that we pay to credit card issuers when we process lobbyist fees. But I'll be happy to answer any questions. We submitted our answers to Representative Nucio. And I'll stop here.
Okay, I'm noticing your testimony from before, you readjusted the final line items to $1,935,050 and $1,964,230. So that's what you're just explaining to us, that increase in that bottom line. And I would cover the two expenses you talked about in reclassifying a worker and the additional money you need for dealing with the licensing fees.
Correct, yes.
Okay. And Representative Nucio, can you forward it seems like we haven't got that. Can you forward the answers you got to the rest of us so we have that information as well? And do you have any additional questions besides the ones you've already asked?
You want me to send the ones from Office of State Ethics?
Yes, please.
Yeah, let me do that. From questions that I have, you have one open right now, right?
Yes, so correct. We have 16 authorized, 15 are filled, and one vacant.
Okay, and do you have that one planned yet? Are there anything out there for those, or is it still just open?
So this one is just open. This is the office assistant position that is currently vacant. We have funding for it, but over the past year, we've realized that we really, we at best could justify a part-time office assistant. I'm sorry?
This is the one you're going to turn into an attorney, right?
Correct.
Yes,
Exactly.
okay, so the assistant is open. You want to, that's the $54,000 that's in here to change it from an admin to an attorney, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so you haven't done that yet?
Correct. Yeah, we haven't reclassified because again, we would like to make sure that we have the funding
Right.
for that staff attorney.
Okay, and then and when you do that, then you'll open up the process. Then do you expect you to have them in here by the beginning of the year, or do you think they'll be staggered?
Well, we will seek to refill that position immediately upon the initiation of the new fiscal year. So our goal is to fill that position sometime late summer, early fall.
Early fall. I'm sorry, I'm just looking for your thing there. Okay. I think that was really the only question I had. You have a lapse balance, you said, of about $40,000, and I'm assuming that's in your personal services because you have that open?
No, actually, this is in the other expenses, and I provided a response to your
Yep.
question. The reason
Yep.
for that, for that lapse is
The travel?
travel, because again, it's some of these things are pandemic related, suspension of travel over this past year. And movement to online operations. We also have suspension of in-person conference that our staff attends. And also, we conduct hybrid board meetings, so we didn't have the travel costs associated with our board members traveling to Hartford.
So did you have this open last year though? Shouldn't part of it be headcount if you've had them open there for a year?
You're talking about that vacant position?
Yep.
Yeah, so we obtained funding a year ago in the budget adjustment. And over the calendar year 2022, we realized with an uptick in education initiatives and also an uptick in need for legal advice, I think we would be better suited to have an attorney position playing a kind of a hybrid role, providing assistance in education and also issuing opinions. And actually, historically, we used to have 3 attorneys plus general counsel in our legal division. We lost that position due to budget cuts back in 2015. That's staff attorney position. So we are reconfiguring our the best use of our staff for the needs of the agency.
Okay. All right, that's all that I have for questions. Thank you, Thank you, Rep. Ryan.
Okay. I have one question. The amounts I just mentioned to you at the bottom line of the budget are the same as the bottom line of the governor's budget. So are you telling us that this is already included in the, does that mean it's already included in the requests you've made? So this is an additional money on the top of that. That's already included in the budget that was submitted from the governor.
Well, what
It's
we,
in their breakout, Rep. Ryan, yeah.
I'm sorry. Just to respond to Representative Ryan, actually the figures that you've cited, yes, they're reflected in the governor's budget, and those are the figures that we've proposed this past fall. So, and again, we would like to thank the governor to recommending what we've asked for. And as it's important to note, and you know already from our prior statements, the Office of State Ethics budget, including our sister watchdog agencies, Freedom of Information and State Elections, is a pass-through budget pursuant under our General Statute Section 1-81A. So what's proposed by us should be transmitted to the legislature, and it has been. And so those figures.
Okay. Yeah, my question is, so you're not asking for any money above what the governor's requesting. That's kind of all I was really asking.
Correct.
Just to make sure we're clear on that.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else have any other questions?
Kevin, may I just ask, so in the reclassification of the position, thank you for looking at that, but will there be any kind of gap in services that are currently or were currently within the ethics department by reclassifying, or will that individual be able to pick up what is currently being done as well as doing the attorney's position?
Well, right now, we are the uptick in education initiatives. I mean, obviously, I'm handling this right now with the assistance from the legal staff, but also in terms of an uptick in legal opinions, those are handled by existing attorneys. So, again, I think having additional help would be beneficial to our operations. So right now, we're just simply managing as with the existing headcount, but I think it would be of benefit to the agency, because we don't want, in other words, we do not have currently any backlog, and we don't want to go there. So that's it's kind of a thinking ahead.
Yeah, no, and that answers my question. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Well, thank you, sir. And again, like I've said to the other folks, we know where to find you if we have any other questions, but thank you for helping explain the elements of your budget. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
For having me.
Okay. According to my communication with Susan, no one from the Judicial Review Council or the Judicial Selection Council have appeared. So we're giving one more call in case they're on here and we don't know, but I don't think so. So the other item on our agenda was discussions. I think we can probably do that in the next work session, unless somebody feels they want to say something now, or we can adjourn this hearing early, or this work session early. I know you'd be disappointed that you're not spending more time here, but we have to do what we have to do. Does anybody have any questions they want to have directed to one of the agencies that are before us, either who presented today or who presented at the agency hearings? Any other additional questions you've thought of since we've left then that we can get answers for before the next work session? So we're all good. And we can always ask Taylor if you have other questions.
If you want, Mr. Chairman, just a reminder to subcommittee members, at the next work session, you'll be meeting with the Office of the Child Advocate, Freedom of Information Commission, State Elections Enforcement Commission, and Office of the Secretary of the State. So if any questions pop into your minds in the coming days, please feel free to forward them to me and I'll get them to the appropriate agency.
Thank you. That's very good idea, Susan. Did you have that schedule? Did you send that schedule to us?
It is embedded in the Zoom invitation. So in your calendar invitation, it'll be embedded in there.
Okay, good. Thank you. If there's nothing else, and if the Judicial Review Council or Judicial Selection Council show up late, we'll call you all back. But don't hold your breath. Okay. Thank you all for being here, and see you at the next work session.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.